The biography written by Ingrid Bergman captivated more than just her admirers. Even her closest friends and family were taken aback. No one was surprised by the intimate information she shared about her love life, the people she crossed paths with, or her life as a Hollywood icon. Her biography was considerably more illuminating than anyone had anticipated, covering both her iconic on-screen roles and the secret she kept from the public eye. Come with us as we explore Bergman's memoir and the profound insights she imparts. Hollywood was taken aback by the memoir. Despite her fame in Hollywood, Ingrid Bergman was much more. She was a real person, a woman whose life was molded by her aspirations, challenges, and tough decisions. Her memoir gave readers a glimpse into her life that was otherwise hidden from public view. She was a theater-loving little girl from Sweden who longed for a world beyond her own. She felt an early pull toward acting, but as she climbed the Hollywood ladder, she never lost touch with her roots, her loved ones, or her unending need to be understood and loved. Everyone in Hollywood took note of Ingrid's stunning good looks and impressive talent the moment she arrived. Her roles in films such as Gaslight, Casablanca, and Intermezzo catapulted her to stardom. From the outside looking in, she appeared to be flawless, rich, beautiful, and beloved by millions. However, she was a real person with her own struggles behind the scenes. Being a famous person wasn't enough for her. As a person, she aspired to be significant. She was a mother as well. Pia Lindström was her daughter from her marriage to Peter Lindström. Although Ingrid had a strong love for her child, she was frequently distracted by her profession. Balancing parenting with the demands of celebrity was a tough process, as her memoir makes clear. It broke her heart to have to leave her daughter behind on occasion so she could focus on her career. Roberto Rossellini, the Italian director, was a major influence in her life after they met. They started dating when she was still married because she fell for him. People in the United States were taken aback when she became pregnant with his child. A scandal of this magnitude would have been considered shocking at the time. Public statements by politicians denouncing her were echoed by newspapers, who dubbed her notorious. Suddenly, she was seen by many as a fallen woman rather than the Hollywood saint. However, the story is told from Ingrid's point of view in her memoir. She doesn't limit herself to playing the victim or the villain. In spite of the overwhelming feelings of betrayal, shame, and terror, she describes a love so powerful that it altered the trajectory of her life. After having further children with Rossellini, she relocated to Italy and filed for a divorce from Lindström. But she did confess that she had to give up some things, her home, her reputation, and even time with her first daughter, in order to follow her heart. However, her memoir covers more than simply scandal. Also included are the gentler, more intimate times that enriched her life. Some of the topics she covered in her writing included family vacations, the delight of preserving old photos and letters, and seeing her children swim. After spending countless hours practicing her lines, she felt an overwhelming sense of accomplishment when her name appeared on a theatrical sign. When the public was critical of her and her professional future looked bleak, she found solace in these recollections. It is Ingrid's bravery and candor in telling her story that makes it so moving. Both she and the individuals she cared about were wounded by her own faults, she concedes. While doing so, she writes about the importance of forgiving everyone, herself included, as well as those she has wronged and those who have been critical of her. She aspired to be recognized for more than just her acting chops. She wished for the world to recognize her for who she was, a mother, a lover, and an ordinary person who did her best to live her dreams. Despite the scandal, her career continued. She went on to star in new films and win accolades, such as an Oscar for Anastasia, after a long absence from Hollywood. In due time, the United States embraced her return and once again lauded her abilities. She persisted in her profession, creativity, and love, even after she was diagnosed with cancer. What makes her biography so impactful is that it goes beyond just recounting facts. You can almost feel the emotions she did. You could feel the anguish she felt at the loss of a loved one, the isolation she felt when separated from her children, and the strength she mustered to face her fears and press on. The life of Ingrid Bergman demonstrates that no one is without their share of darkness. Both love and decision-making aren't always black and white. Avoiding danger is not the same as being courageous. The ability to persevere when faced with adversity. It was Ingrid's action. She persevered in the face of societal criticism and left behind an account that was rich with genuine emotion and experience. For additional information about the memoir, stay tuned. Love affairs that Ingrid Bergman kept hidden. Unbeknownst to many, Ingrid Bergman's heart held hidden truths. Those private moments she hid from the world, even as they beheld her on film. Married to Peter Lindström in 1937, She had a lovely daughter named Pier, and began her life young, full of aspirations. She seemed to have it all: a supportive family, notoriety, and financial success. But she was actually rather restless on the inside. There were times when her Hollywood roles felt hollow, and she wished they were more substantial. Unexpectedly, love discovered her in the midst of her search. Robert Capa, the famous war photographer, was one of my secret admirers. In Paris, they crossed paths. On the other hand, Bergman felt burdened by a distant marriage while war-ravaged places and stories occupied him. She hadn't felt this energized in a long time until she was with Capa. She thought about getting out of her marriage. She pondered whether that could be the way to experience authenticity. Despite her longing, she never truly distanced herself. She kept the affair a secret, a murmur under her public persona. After that, Roberto Rossellini arrived. Over time, her admiration for his films had grown. In an effort to collaborate on a project that would challenge her and upend her world, she sent him a letter expressing her interest in being in a film. Everything changed because of that letter. She became a part of the Stromboli project. A change occurred during the filming process. Despite their respective marriages, the director and actress began to spend more time together outside of work. Passion, longing, remorse, and ferocious hope were all parts of their lengthy chats. Just before she filed for a divorce, she fell pregnant with Roberto, their son. In 1950, her husband Peta wed Rossellini after the marriage was finalized. For love and art, she was abandoning the familiar and secure. All eyes were on it. Her heart ached. Even though America had praised her before, they now considered her scandalous. Many people sent hate mail, objections from strangers, including members of her religion and her admirers. A senator from the United States spoke out against her, describing her as a toxic influence. Accusations and indignation halted her career, not because she wanted to, but because everyone else seemed to have abandoned her. She fled into exile. Life was far from ideal, even when she relocated to Italy to live with Rossellini. Isabella and Isotte were her twin daughters. A passionate love consumed her. But it was tough to adjust to a new culture, learn a new language, and live in a world where others constantly critiqued. There were highlights like seeing children grow up, laughing, and family meals, but there were also low points. Disappointment, disagreements, Rossellini's envy and his wandering gaze. Being a mother and an artist, she struggled with conflicting desires for independence and acceptance. In her mind, she was failing miserably at both jobs at times. Finally, there was Elle Schmidt, my dear. While watching one of their movies, they became closer. It was like a spark in a dark room, short and strong. They were young, they worked well together, they laughed and longed together, and they shared time off set. It was not a public scandal, though, at that time. It was a secret recollection that was revealed after a long time had passed. When two artists trust one another's craft, they enjoy a special form of connection. That is both appreciation and affection. Ingrid never once pretended to have it all together. She acknowledged the anguish and shame she felt. Because she missed her daughter who remained behind, she broke down in tears. Home, the scent of Sweden, and the comfort of speaking her native tongue were all things she longed for. As she saw her Hollywood doors close, she saw her reputation deteriorate. Despite the suffering she endured, she continued to create films, paint with words and light and love. She placed greater stock in her own honesty and creativity than in the opinions of others. She was transformed as a person and an artist by the love she had for Rossellini. Raw, with lights shifting, faces close, and heavy silence, she created films with him. She was allowed to show a side of herself she hadn't previously on film. While some may never forgive her, the mystery and shame of that affair inspired her best work. The scandal surrounding Ingrid Bergman's hidden relationships was just one aspect, though. Feeling safe felt like dying a little, so they talked about choosing something terrifying instead, and about desire and being real. Unperfect in her love, she defied expectations and did what her heart told her to do despite widespread disapproval. She let her love become a part of her story, even when the world judged. She taught us what it is to love with all our being in every heartfelt film, in every regretful note, and in every joyful moment spent with her children. Incidents involving her, however, persisted indefinitely. She was devastated to her very core by the controversy. It was a good day for Ingrid Bergman. She had earned accolades, acted in critically acclaimed films, and mesmerized audiences with her beauty and charisma. Something occurred in 1950, though, that rocked her world and altered her perception of her own controllability. Italian filmmaker Roberto Rossellini was the object of Ingrid's affections while they were filming Stromboli. Both she and Rossellini were married at the time. She was still married to Peter Lindstrom. Their affair was in the news. Gred became a mother. Many people, notably in the United States, heard about that quickly. Her actions were completely unacceptable. They felt cheated because she had portrayed innocent, wholesome characters so frequently, and her reputation had appeared impervious. What came next was far from idle chatter. Congressman Edwin C. Johnson, a U.S. senator, publicly criticized her ethics and condemned her. He said her deeds reflected poorly on his ideals of parenting and marriage, and he referred to her as a potent force for evil. News outlets continued to pour on. Anger letters were addressed to her by religious groups, women's associations, and even regular people. There was nasty loathing. She was held responsible for many things, including her husband's abandonment, the loss of her young daughter, Pia, her immorality, and her infidelity. Letters and telegrams were sent to Ingrid, expressing harsh opinions, claiming that she had embarrassed her kid and tarnished her innocent reputation in the public eye. Even Hollywood shuddered. Studio heads were hesitant to cast her in films. Some deals just vanished. She avoided major Hollywood roles and worked sparingly in the U.S. for a long time. After achieving unprecedented success in American cinema, she found herself practically shunned all of a sudden. Doors that were previously easy to open were now tightly shut. It appeared like everyone had decided she wasn't suitable for Hollywood because of her private life. Her professional advancement stalled. The incident forced her to flee the United States for Italy, where she could work in peace and quiet. There, she worked with Rossellini on multiple projects. The artistic endeavors of some were very introspective, but American viewers either didn't pay attention or were very critical of them. Even if it wasn't intended as punishment, spending so much time away from Hollywood seemed like it. Banishment due to one's reputation, dread, or expectations. For Ingrid, the price was high. Her daughter was taken from her. She fretted over the opinions of others. Many people looked at her beyond her acting career and saw her as a woman, mother, and wife. It hurt that some individuals attempted to put shame on me. Uncertainty, grief, and guilt weighed on her. But she also knew she had to listen to her heart, create what she loved, and follow her instincts. She had faith in her actions. She was unwavering in her belief that her life belonged to her, regardless of the opinions of others. The issue lingered on for a while, but the animosity subsided. Her films began to gain popularity in Europe. Some of the naysayers began to show sympathy, or even change their thoughts. After spending so much time away from Hollywood, her 1956 return to Anastasia felt like going home. I loved that movie. Even if many had murmured her name in a derogatory or ashamed manner, it now carried a sense of honor. Another Oscar went to her. She was able to be with her daughter again. Although she couldn't forgive everyone, she finally accepted what had happened. Looking back, the world's readiness to judge Ingrid Bergman was just as devastating to her career as her actions. A public's perception is quite delicate, as the controversy demonstrated. Just how distinct one's private life is from one's public persona. Ingrid thought that living honestly would cost her money for a while. People first didn't take her seriously, but her brilliance, bravery, and determination eventually changed their minds. The fact that her blunders were accentuated by her popularity just goes to prove that we are all fallible. As a result of enduring the scandal, she altered not just her own life, but also the expectations of what a powerful woman could go through and emerge stronger. We may now delve into the most interesting aspect of her life. She has been clean about the prominent guys in her life. Authentic love was what Ingrid Bergman yearned for as a child. The kind of love she had experienced in her first recollections. A strong, commanding love. She had never known love before the deaths of her parents, a mother and father, left her wondering what it meant to be loved. To rely on someone who appreciated her for more than just her good looks. She encountered numerous men who sparked an emotional response in her as her fame grew. Artists in the fields of photography, filmmaking, and acting, each of whom introduced her to a new facet of herself. The anxious war photographer Robert Carper, whose stories burdened Ingrid, was one of the first to get her heart racing. His courtship began in Paris and continued in other cities. He had seen conflict and felt sadness. He was free and dangerous. At the time, Ingrid was married, yet she felt stifled by the expectations of others. In Kappa, she met someone who knew what it was like to be a nomad and to be ravenous for adventure. Their bond was fragile, hidden, and brimming with desire. A life apart from him, where she could love him openly, was something she fantasized about. Even if circumstances drove them apart in the end, that bond altered her within. Next, we have Gregory Peak. Long days on set, creative trust, and peaceful times away from the camera were all parts of their time working together on Spellbound. It did its acting under the illumination of the studio lights. Once it had loosened up, they were young and full of admiration for one another, and their connection was intense but short. There was warmth, maybe more on her side, maybe shared, and Ingrid respected him profoundly. However, with the public eye, such matters become more delicate. Much of it was kept secret. Gregory would talk about his love for her during that time in his life years later, but he never said anything more than that. His feelings for her remained confined to art and respect. The idea that attraction might have both positive and negative aspects was formed by that chapter for Ingrid. Her connection with Roberto Rossellini was the most profound and influential of her life. Even before they met, she was a fan of his work. She offered her talents and wrote him a letter, expressing her profound emotional connection to his flicks. He responded with more than just teamwork. Affection blossomed into love, and sacrifice became the default when creating Stromboli. Everything changed for Ingrid when she fell pregnant with Rossellini's boy before she left her husband. Even if she welcomed a profound love, the world around her was cruel. There were hopeful rumbles of delight at the prospect of having a kid and a life partner who would push her to her limits. But there was also a heavy weight of public scrutiny that she was terrified of. With the weight of scandal and the furious blossom of love and parenthood, her heart was burdened. She also had encounters with other males, directors who seduced her with possibility, Hollywood actors who brought a smile to her face, friends whose love was later shown through letters. The public sphere was never truly invaded by certain partnerships. They were significant, though, because they allowed her to see herself reflected back to her, not as a celebrity, but as a real person. She clung to the recollections of meals, late-night chats, and leisurely strolls, where someone had inquired about the sensations of her dreams and her fears. Sacrifice, regret, longing, and forgiveness were some of the lessons she learned from these interactions, whether they were secret or not. Despite everything that came to light, Ingrid never once attempted to cover up his humiliation. She never once felt the need to apologize for her feelings, though. Some of her regrets, she conceded, were particularly venomous. The ones she had to leave behind were missed. She cared deeply about the opinions of others and her daughter's emotions, but she never hid the truth from the portions of herself that would not accept anything less than unconditional love. That was secure or artificial affection. Even if the truth burned, she believed that freedom was necessary for creativity, and that love required the truth. By the time she penned her memoir, she had realized that the blunders, scandals, and headlines tend to stick out in people's minds. The subtler loves, though, the ones that flashed between roles and lights, between far distances and camera flashes, were the ones that molded her. She did not treat the men in her life like numbers in a gossip book. All three, wounds, mirrors, and instructors. Through them, she was able to see her strengths, weaknesses, and places of hope despite dread. After going through that, she realized that loving is risky, that being loved is risky, and that her imperfect love made her art richer. Her claims on these well-known men are credible. She expressed her feelings and showed that love can be courageous, not because she singled out specific people. How adoration can transform into desire, even though it hurts a little. Passion is beautiful. The response she received from others, though, was the most tragic aspect. The general consensus after her confessions. A dramatic change occurred in Ingrid Bergman's environment upon the revelation of her affair with Roberto Rossellini. People had previously thought of her as innocent, lovely, and nearly untouchable. Throughout her roles, she frequently gave the impression that she was a morally upright person who valued family and tradition. Many saw her pregnancy and subsequent decision to leave her husband for Rossellini as a violation of their trust. The shock was due to both her actions and her supposed identity. The influx of letters and telegrams quickly overwhelmed her. Feelings of grief, judgment, and hate pervaded some. She was shamed, accused of being immoral, and accused of abandoning her little daughter in one telegram. Someone else shamed her family and stated she was no better than a prostitute. Some notes expressed the desire for her to forever distance herself from America. The wrath resounded. The tone was severe. Her expectation that people would place a higher priority on her professional life than her personal life led her to be surprised by these developments. Many, however, did not share this view. The public's reaction was worse than disdain in certain sections. It was all business, because celebrities back then were held to incredibly high standards, and their personal lives were scrutinized closely. Words spoken by him intensified the penalty. Not merely murmurs, lawmakers were the ones who spoke out against her. As a result, the controversy seemed irreversible to many, who felt that Ingrid had crossed a line that society had made clear should never be crossed. The media also contributed by giving every gaffe, feeling, and rumor more attention than they deserved. Her shifting allegiances, her decision to leave her husband, and the news of her newborn child were featured in newspapers and magazines. Her side was mostly ignored by many stories. For them, sensationalism was paramount. It seemed as though everyone was observing her tumble. She observed as her reputation declined. Someone to embarrass, Santrit became. People used to be awestruck by her name, but now they see it as a cautionary tale. If you disobey their regulations, what will happen? The letters and documents were painful to write, since those who had before lauded her acting roles now viewed her private life with suspicion. The responses were also divided. There were some nasty people, but there were also some nice folks. Some of the fans stuck with it. Many people wrote letters to her to express their understanding and admiration for her bravery. Some praised her candor, saying it was courageous of her to do what she did. Many still express regret that she had to endure that whenever they read about that period. The hate mail was terrible, she said afterwards. To show what people can do when they're hurt, she even kept part of it. Some of her detractors became more understanding as she continued to perform with the same passion she had before the incident, demonstrating that she wasn't trying to hide her struggles or be perfect. Even Sweden, her own country, was first very critical. She was heavily criticized by several Swedish newspapers, which portrayed her narrative in a negative light. Was she being treated fairly, though, by others? This was particularly true among Swedish women. Her life was convoluted, and there were articles and debates arguing that she deserved compassion. Many people thought she was unfairly targeted because she was a public woman who followed her heart, not only because of her affair. There were Swedes who began to consider her as a champion, a victim of moral judgment, who was unjustly pursued. Because of the pushback, Ingrid felt more isolated and genuine to many. The scathing criticism became less severe with the passage of time. People started paying attention to Ingrid again when she came back to the US to star in Anastasia. All of it. The scandal, the tenderness, the artistry, and the good deeds she had always performed. Even those who had previously criticized her are now praising her, describing her as strong and courageous. After experiencing a sense of exile, Ingrid made peace with the United States, according to her daughter. Judgments made in anger frequently have tears behind them. As the public gradually came to learn, she gained something, even though it came at a cost. Physical separation, strained relationships, and emotional distress. An opportunity to pardon, an opportunity to be appreciated for who you are once more. The candor of Ingrid Bergman. Beyond her film career and accolades, Ingrid Bergman left behind an honest legacy. The reality it left behind continues to move people's hearts even after she is gone. Even when it hurt, she never shied away from being herself. Letters, journals, and home movies were all things she preserved. She was not afraid to talk openly about taboo subjects at times. She did this to let the world see her as a real person, a woman with loves, regrets, hopes, and mistakes, rather than only an icon. Being honest and vulnerable created something long-lasting, something that has relevance even in the modern day. Viewers of the video and readers of her memoir will witness firsthand the impact that her candor had on her life. With all her heart, she confesses she loved. She feels guilty about leaving and says she missed her kids. There was no attempt at concealment on her part. She was not striving for perfection. Her authenticity was enhanced by that, and by being herself, she gave other people the confidence to do the same. Her vulnerability helped those who were hurting, and reminded them that being courageous doesn't imply you never fall, even though life makes you hide your pain, meaning you'll get up nonetheless. Her offspring spoke about their mom with both joy and sadness. Even though she was kind and loving, she was often absent, focused on her work or pursuing other projects. Her absence was felt by all. Still, her candor was held in high regard. She supposedly never made an effort to conceal the fact that she had to decide between being loyal to her job and being with them. Though it damaged her relationship, being truthful about it strengthened her character, since now she doesn't make excuses when she says what's on her mind or what she did. Stories of celebrity can mask feelings of insecurity and discomfort. The uncertain were allowed to live openly by Ingrid Bergman. Others' perceptions of her work also shifted due to her candor. Some felt her acting career was over after the controversy, when her European affairs and lifestyle made her unpopular in the US, but she persisted in picking roles that were important to her and continued to perform. People started to stop associating the person with the tabloid stories as time went on. They could tell that she was striving to live her life passionately, that she believed in truth, and that art was important to her. It seemed as if the world had forgiven her or remembered her fully when she returned to Anastasia. Considering her skill and vulnerability, as well as the controversies around her, people began to forgive her again when she was honest with them. The scenes where she bravely confronts her humiliation have an impact on many viewers, according to her own remarks. Decisions were not easy, and she doesn't try to make them seem that way. She honestly acknowledges that she has caused harm to herself and others. She portrays both bright and dark aspects. It is unusual for someone of such fame to be that forthright. I am amazed. Others will feel safe enough to admit when they too have made tough decisions. The lesson is that there are low points in life as well as high points. A portion of Ingrid's legacy is the courage to embrace rather than bury the complex emotions that make up love, such as heartbreak, longing, and forgiveness. In addition to her loved ones, her candor will live on in cinematic canon and popular culture. Many in the film industry and among moviegoers believe that her ability to stare someone in the eyes, while on screen, conveyed more than her voice, features, or performance. She allowed herself to be exposed. Her flaws were laid out for all to see. Her performances become more profound and moving as a result. In films about powerful women, it gives her story more impact. For those who think integrity and skill go hand in hand, she becomes an inspiration. The diaries and letters written by Bergman continue to be cited in films and books about her. Sincerity, they realize, has endured. Her words hold up over time. Feelings of remorse persist. A lot depends on the decisions. However, her candor was born out of a complete mastery of her existence. Each viewer who is inspired by her truth feels her legacy alive because of her honesty. Fame and filmmaking weren't the only factors. It dealt with the chaotic beauty of existence. Ingrid Bergman bequeathed us that legacy. So after reading the Ingrid memoir, what are your feelings on it? Your opinion? Was it the correct thing for her to tell the truth to everyone? Leave a comment with your ideas. And if you want to see more fascinating stories about your favorite celebs, subscribe, like, and click the bell icon.